No, I know your statisticians on the ground are caught up in data gathering, but behind these number notes, the footnotes or their report they put together, do they also look at some of the science behind some of these things? Because during some time, and I engage in policy, George, there's abundance of food in the village, the hinterlands and all the rest. But we do understand why when it gets to the market here in Accra, they are expensive. Some will claim that, yes, the cost of carting these goods. You go down and just capture the data, and you get the science behind the dynamics and people profiteering from all these things. So we are just caught up in just gather the data, let's put together inflation numbers.
Again, thank you very much. By our mandate, we strictly go by what you said. We go in there, we collect the data on prices, the quantities, and use that to compute our inflation. But again, this is what we are doing differently now at Ghana Statistical Service, for which reason now we've even set up a public policy, public finance unit to deal with exactly what you are talking about. So now everybody is asking, where are we headed with inflation? And this is a conversation that at the time that you are releasing inflation for a particular month, you cannot talk about all these external factors because, as I explained to you earlier on, they don't go into the direct measurement of inflation. So at that point, when you want to talk about both the direct and the indirect effects of inflation, policymakers will not really appreciate it.
Or because you want to stick to your mandate, or I've not read the fine details, but your mandate is just to collect data. Let's do it, go. Let policy just do the rest.
No, but George, this is exactly what I'm trying to explain to you. So now when we release the figures, we go forward and put out some numbers for policy considerations. So we do the headline figure as I explained, and you would always see that in our last two slides, we point policymakers to issues of trend that they have to pay attention to, issues of particular commodities that have seen very high increases in prices and their relative weights. Let me give you a typical example. We started the year with an inflation figure of 13.9. Went up to 15, went up to 17, 19, 21, then 40.4 in October, and currently we are having 50.3. When we are doing our regular releases, we just show a time trend of, let's say, the last 2 years or the last 3 years. If you look at the numbers carefully, you realize that the jump between October 2022 and November 2022 is the highest for 2022. From January to November, it was only between October and November that we recorded a change from 40.4 to 50.3, a change of 9.9. When we are having such policy discussions, we need to look at the historical data, and the first question is, has Ghana ever recorded such a jump for a year-on-year inflation? And indeed, this has happened before, when in 2000, we recorded a jump from about 23.3% to about 33.5%, which was about a 10% drop. Then the next question is, have we recorded a sharp decline before? As people are asking whether are we seeing the peak of inflation before? And indeed, it's happened. In 2004, we saw a sharp decline on a year-on-year basis of about 10.4%. So what we do beyond the numbers is that, one, we provide the data. One, we give the hints of where policymakers should direct their thoughts to. But we cannot exactly tell the policymaker that, go and do this. And the reason why we cannot do it is exactly what I explained to you. It's a mixed bag of factors. One is the computational side, and the other is the indirect side that brings on board a host of other variables. So if you are not the policymaker and you don't know exactly what the policymaker seeks to do, and you just look at the numbers and say that because of these numbers behave this way, we don't think we'll be...